The 4th of July brings many things: barbecues, demonstrations of patriotism, and travel to see friends and family across the U.S. Unfortunately, many airlines have trimmed their schedules due to staffing shortages and bad weather to give them room to rearrange flights. However, this shortage only exacerbated problems by the delays and cancellations of 12,000 flights over the July 4th weekend. This number has outstretched what was seen during the COVID-19 pandemic and leaves many travelers wondering what the real reason behind it is. As passengers grow angrier over how the airlines handle things, they draw much-needed criticism in the political sector. According to CNBC, July 1st saw over 7,000 delays, with the second seeing 5,000. This had many airlines like Delta offering passengers to change their flights for free, and JetBlue giving flight attendants bonuses to ensure the airline had proper staffing. American Airlines has even shown pilots triple their pay through their Envoy airline. This also comes with an increase in fares and passenger levels. But what caused all this to begin with? Is the problem due to the pandemic, or does it reach more profound than that? This is especially interesting as many travelers are more than willing to pay the larger fares since the pandemic has ended. Airlines have already reaped the rewards, but when will traveling by air becomes too costly or too much of a headache? How the airlines handle things, they draw much-needed criticism in the political sector. The COVID-19 pandemic caused a lot of concerns for businesses and individuals. What caused even more problems was the vaccines that some companies wanted their employees to take. Hospitals around the country have long since required their healthcare workers to stay up to date on vaccines, including the ones for COVID-19. For airlines, this new requirement was a shock and came as an unethical requirement for many workers. According to Business Insider, United Airlines CEOs had confirmed that they fired 232 of its employees as of October 2021. Scott Kirby, the CEO of United, also mentioned that 99.7% of their employees have received the vaccine. United was also the first airline to mandate the requirement for the COVID-19 vaccine and gave their employees a deadline of October 25, 2021. This decision started a cascade of similar decisions, followed by Frontier and Hawaiian Airlines, to name a few. Others offered a testing opt-out procedure. However, this did cause a lot of pushback. With Biden's federal vaccine mandate for contractors, airlines didn't have much choice, with Southwest and American following in United's footsteps. Delta already had a 100% vaccination record. While United fired employees, American and Southwest took a different approach. According to WebMD, the Association of Flight Attendants, a union for American Airlines, confirmed that there were options and exemptions to the vaccines for those employees who didn't meet the deadline. With American already doing business with a smaller workforce due to staffing cuts from 2020, they allowed the exemptions to take place. Southwest took a different route and canceled flights, but unvaxxed workers were able to work. Still, they had to follow all guidelines while their exemption status was pending. However, all new employees needed to be vaccinated. United has since allowed unvaccinated workers to return to work for those who have gotten exemptions from the vaccine mandate. How corporate greed used the pandemic to trim staff and increase profits. Even though it has been 2 years since the pandemic, the airline industry has slashed numerous jobs, most of which have not been filled. Because the airline's not replacing these jobs, these constant staffing issues have made a nightmare of travel for passengers. With stay-at-home orders and many fearing the pandemic, the lack of air travel caused many airlines to cut staff. According to the Bureau of Transportation, airlines had cut 1 out of 10 jobs in 2020. While some positions have been filled, a large number are still open. The Federal Aviation Administration has shown that there are 17% fewer certificates for commercial pilots in 2021 compared to 2009. Since then, airlines have blamed everything from bad weather and staffing issues for delays, cancellations, and higher fares. Some experts have claimed that this is like a supply chain issue, similar to oil and electronics problems. While they cut jobs when there was less demand, airlines are hiring fewer back, as this demand has driven up costs for the passenger. One can only put so much blame on lousy weather before reality steps in. While airlines can pull a pilot off the street, many airlines claim that there aren't enough trained to fly, as the flight crew can only work a certain amount of hours. Few pilots that were let go during the pandemic have been hired back, which causes other issues in consumer trust and current holiday travel issues that will cascade through the holidays later this year. Record profits even without sustainable staffing. Even with staffing shortages, some airlines are starting to see record profits. In line with the gas industry, rising prices have affected the bottom line in a positive way for the airline industry. While United and American reported a loss in the first quarter of the year, they expect to have record revenue in this current quarter. This is only 2 years after the pandemic halted most travel in the friendly skies. Even with higher fuel costs and a lack of flight crews, airlines are expected to return to the black as bookings continue despite the higher price in fares. As planes and profits are taking off, passengers are taking the hit in their wallets and their patience as continued delays and cancellations continue. According to CNN Business, both American and United saw a loss of up to $1.5 billion a year ago and a revenue rise of 122%, which is a giant leap to $8.9 billion for American. United is seeing a 135% leap in profits, or $7.6 billion. With less staff, constant delays, cancellations, and higher fares, airlines are making quite the comeback in the business sector. Record profits have become a new normal in today's business world, with passengers and consumers taking the hit. With fuller planes comes higher fares and rates as passengers continue forward with travel plans. While this is terrible news for those traveling, investors are reaping the rewards as shares rose 11% for American, 9% for United, a 3% for both Delta and Southwest. When it comes to the bottom line, the airlines are flying high,